Gary, since you are a grown man that cosplays as a teenager,
Oh,
what in the actual is this demure thing on social media?
well, Elle, to describe it is to describe it as not too overboard, not too underboard, just perfectly in the middle.
I am still confusion. Welcome to the Elle Duncan Show with Gary Striesky. Okay, by the way, Gary is notorious for picking on old ladies like me who don't know any of the TikTok trends because,
Okay.
life and children. And then in real time, embarrassing me. I think it's elder abuse. He did this to me with the give me my money trend. I was an unwitting
Yay!
participant. I had no idea what this was. And he's like, yeah, all you got to do is say, give me my money and celebrate. I
Elle.
should have been clued into the fact that they very specifically made me last in line. I was
hmm
not. I
hmm
do a full blown suck it, give me my money. No one cheers. No one's excited about it. Of course, I was busted as the old lady
hmm
that doesn't put me up there with Scottie Pippen and everybody else has been busted by their children.
But, but
But
Elle, but it makes you affable. It makes you even more likable. Like, oh,
oh,
why they got to do that to our cool Auntie L? Our cool auntie who's in all the commercials and she's cool and she's ahead of the conversation and she's in the middle of all the coolness. Why they got to do that? Why they got to do her like that, L? So really, in turn, I'm just actually trying to help the brand.
is
Not
that
that
what
your
it is?
brand needs any sort of
Yeah.
help, but I'm just saying, sometimes it's good to see our heroes as regular people.
Well,
You know what I'm
listen, I
saying?
don't care about any of those things because I am demure. That didn't feel
You
like
are demure. You're not
exactly
doing too much with the makeup. Okay. You're not doing too much. You're not saying too much. It's cutesy. It's fine. It's
Okay, so
okay.
that makes more sense if you phrase it in the context of things that are cutesy. Like when I sip my water, do I look demure?
See, that's demure. You're going with the pinky up. You're
I had the
not doing
pinky
too
out.
much.
Okay.
You're not gulping. You're not slurping. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? You're just being very demure about it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's absolutely nothing demure about what Caitlin Clark is doing since the All-Star break, or really not the All-Star break, but the Olympic break.
On a tear.
Um, yeah. You know what? It's so funny. It's as if, Gary, for months now, all of these WNBA experts have been telling A, the people who felt like the league was being too hard on her, and B, the people who felt like she was overrated because her team started out 2-9 and she was leading the league in turnovers and she wasn't getting, her typical logo threes and stuff. It's as if there was all these experts that told both of you that she was going to be just fine, that given some time, given some practice, given some chemistry building, given a freaking break, because the girl's been going since like last November,
hmm
she would be just fine. And alas, wow, look what's happened. She comes back from the All Star break. And the good news for the Fever is while they had the hardest schedule to start the season, they have the easiest post Olympic break, but not necessarily this week. I mean, you're facing two teams in the Mercury and the Storm. Both are playoff teams. Both, to some degree, have enough talent on their team to say that they're contenders, although they're both middling a bit right now.
hmm
And not only did they win, I mean, they punched both of them in the mouth starting earlier this week, or last week rather, with her beating the Mercury, avoiding the season sweep, which was great. And then taking down the Storm, a team who have really been sort of hit or miss. They started out the season sort of trying to figure out their own chemistry issues. They really went on a bit of a tear, a little bit of a downside to end the break. And then they came back, and we were hoping to sort of see between them and the Lynx and Connecticut. Like, will the real contenders please stand up? And I mean, they absolutely took it to him. She sets an assist record, which of course she takes great pride in because that's the thing about Caitlin. All the logo threes and stuff is what gets all of the attention on the highlights, but the girl can dish. That her court vision is probably the most impressive thing about Caitlin Clark. When we talk about her looking like Pistol Pete or being, ponytail Pete Maravich was the dime machine. And she's
hmm
got so many of those aspects and takes great pride in it. And now we're talking about a Fever team, Gare Bear, who inconceivably to start the season are not only a playoff team, but a playoff team that could potentially make a little bit of noise because it's a 12-team league and 8 teams make the postseason.
Mhm.
And so it stood to reason that, like, if they could string some wins together, they could sneak into the postseason. But now this is a team that we might be looking at and saying they could potentially win a first round series.
I have many points to get to. First and foremost, we can start calling Caitlin Clark Dawn the way she's built for these dishes. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying?
it's okay.
She hit 3
That's a bar.
triples. Okay, that's a bar. Hey, use that one on the 6P, all right? No attribution necessary. Okay, the thing about what Caitlin Clark's doing, and I know on the last podcast we said, "Oh, what about the rookie of the year conversation?"
Mhm.
I'm done talking about the rookie of the year. She should also be in the MVP conversation. I know it's going to be Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart. Obviously, it's a loaded class. It's a loaded crop of players. But I don't think you can make an argument against why she shouldn't be in that conversation. I'm not trying to go Dak 2.0 here like I did on First Take, but what she is doing with the team she is doing it on deserves more recognition. She set the all-time WNBA rookie assist record last game against the Seattle Storm team, who's top 4 in the WNBA standings. The Fever still have 12 games to play. So conceivably, she can put this in such a rear view that nobody will ever touch this record. So they have 12 games left, 7 of which are against teams with sub 500 records. So they can really distance themselves, the Fever, into climbing up, not just into the 6th spot or the 5th spot. I mean, it's not inconceivable to say they can be playing for a top 4 spot in the playoffs. The Liberty have already clinched. The Connecticut Sun and the Aces are absolute wagons, but they're playing both the Sun and the Aces 2 more times by the end of the season. Obviously, they would have to win those games in order to be put in the top half of the WNBA playoffs. And maybe I'm just drinking the juice, and I'm high on the supply that the Indiana Fever are providing. But there's nothing that they've done these 2 games outside of break against teams who are good that tells me otherwise. Like Caitlin Clark, to your point, oh, she's the logo 3. She's the one who's double digit scoring. The Fever shot 50% from distance last game. Caitlin Clark was 3 of 10. So it's the distribution,
Yeah,
like Lexi
Lexi
Hull,
Hull.
a career
Lexi Hull,
high,
yeah, was
right? It's the
nasty.
distribution that she has. Kelsey Mitchell playing really well. So again, I think right now, everybody needs to, if not already, get on this Indiana Fever playoff train.
Well, I think that's the thing with the Fever is that what we're finally starting to see is that so much of this was about what Caitlin Clark was or was not going to be able to do and how she's going to be able to drag this team to the postseason. And people kept forgetting that they had the reigning Rookie of the Year in Aaliyah Boston, who
Mhm.
has figured out her timing with Caitlin Clark. And then you mentioned Kelsey Mitchell. She said that her and Caitlin speak the same language. They both love to run the floor. And you're seeing that as well as she's been phenomenal. I mean, both of them offensively incredible. Lexi Hull was on an absolute tear against the Storm. I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit though on the MVP talk, and
Okay, I was gonna say, wait, hold on. You
yeah.
haven't given me any follow up on the MVP nugget that I dropped. Okay, so I'm glad that you have a reaction to this.
Yeah, I'm gonna pump the brakes there a little bit. If you just want to like throw them in the same way that we sort of go, why can't SGA be an MVP, right? Like if you want to sort of throw it in that conversation,
Hey,
that's
real
fine.
quick, SGA second in
He was.
WNBA MVP voting.
He was, and that's fair. Fine. Then I'll throw like a when people were like, "Oh, like Jalen Brunson." You know what? These aren't even good comparisons because
Jalen Brunson's a good one.
all I need to do is run for you Asia Wilson's stats this year because this is what you need to remember about Asia Wilson, okay? She's a two-time MVP. She's a two-time Defensive Player of the Year award. She's a WNBA Finals MVP. And she is still somehow playing the best basketball of her career. She is averaging over 27 points, 12 rebounds, almost 3 blocks, over 2 assists, and almost 2 steals a game. She is shooting over 52% from the field. She is almost shooting 40% from deep. That is the most
Understood.
complete resume that currently exists. And then if you're going to make the argument for Brianna Stewart, Stewie's been phenomenal as well. And the Liberty, honestly, are the only team out of the contenders, if you will, that don't seem to have an Olympic hangover at all. They look
Mhm.
fantastic. A Liberty team that's one of the original teams and still doesn't have a championship. It has been elusive to them. They look great. Her and Sabrina look fantastic. Certainly we're going to see what happens in the finals or in the playoffs rather as over the last couple of years, that's been sort of the one thing for Stewie. He's just getting a little bit tired, so much of the offensive output. And here's the thing with the Liberty, they don't even have Benijah Laney Hamilton back, who's still out with the knee injury, their best defender on the team.
Mhm.
It's not an indictment on anybody else. It's completely an endorsement on A'ja Wilson. This is the easiest and should be the easiest decision that we've ever seen in terms of MVP. So if just for and giggles, you want to just like throw Caitlin in the conversation because it's not fun to handicap it at, A'ja Wilson's going to win it and no one else is going to come close. But there's no
Let me
debating it. And for
let me ask you a
me,
question.
yeah,
I'm not debating it. That's why I was like, listen, she's not going to win, but she should be in the conversation, right? She should be invited into this exclusive party, into this exclusive. Let me ask you this. The Fever play the Aces 2 more times
yeah.
in their 12 games. If
Hmm.
Caitlin Clark wins those individual head-to-head matchups, you don't think it shortens the odds, shorten
No,
the talk behind it, because
no,
you're gonna be on the
no,
desk for all of those ABC primetime games, right? Like, you don't think that conversation is gonna be breached between you and the big three?
no. I mean,
Or
I think
at
that, I
least,
think
or
if
at
that,
the very least, what about at the very least? A'ja Wilson right now, front runner, will likely win MVP. Who's the next best option? Who's her next closest competition? You're
probably
telling me
Stewie.
if Caitlin Clark doesn't win those head-to-head matchups, and the next couple of games, they beat Seattle, they beat Phoenix, they have the Aces twice, they play Minnesota next, and they get the Sun. The Fever, of their 5 games left against winning teams, they're all 5 teams who are ahead of them right now in the standings.
Yeah, no. I don't I think that if we broach that topic on a WNBA countdown, it would just be to stir the pot. No. There has been one
That's
player
what we
ever
do.
in WNBA history that has been a rookie and has won MVP honors, and that is Candace Parker, and that is because she was dominant from beginning
Okay.
to end. I think the race is too far. It's too no. No, I think it's
Okay.
just too far. Like, and again, I think additionally, if you're going to throw a second name in there, it's probably going to be someone like a Brianna Stewart, or
Okay.
maybe even before her team sort of was floundering, and Alyssa Thomas, who's had a couple of top 4 MVP finishes. And again, none of those are as sexy as Caitlin Clark in terms of big names and whatnot. But no, I think this is Asia's to lose. I think that the conversation about Rookie of the Year, which had a lot more nuance to it than people wanted to believe even a few weeks ago, when if you even made an argument for Angel Reese, you were deemed a hater. I think that that conversation has become more clear. Um, to me, I've sort of been 10 toes down, and that I think it's Caitlin Clark that should get Rookie of the Year. But that I could understand the argument for Angel Reese. And by the way, shout out to Angel Reese, another double double. I mean, the woman is on fire. She continues to extend already what's been a record breaking season for her in the double double metric. But Chicago is still, they're not winning.
Yeah.
They're
They're
not
not.
being impacted by her incredible play in the way that Caitlin is impacting the Fever. Again, a
Correct.
team that started 2-9, have settled in, and now took down 2 pretty big names, and to your point, have the easiest schedule remaining. So I think that has certainly put some people on alert, and I do think that the Rookie of the Year conversation gets clear. Like, I think those odds are going to continue to stretch. She was already
Totally
such a
into it.
big favorite. I think
Yeah.
that is going to be solidified over the next couple of weeks, and I think if they're able to stand toe to toe with the Aces and beat them, then that Rookie of the Year conversation becomes a little bit clearer. But no, I'm not
Okay.
broaching that topic with MVP simply because of what A'ja Wilson's doing. And I think we are so apathetic to greatness that we're like, yeah, whatever. I read her resume. It's like, yeah, that's what you expect from her. But again, to do all of those things and have all of those accomplishments and still find a way to elevate is absolutely remarkable, truly. And so I'm still going with the Aces there. But can I
And
give
what
a
people need to realize real
yeah,
quick, Elle, because you said you were 10 toes down on Caitlin Clark, and what people who aren't familiar with Elle's sensibilities, disdains, and likabilities, she absolutely hates feet
I
and
do.
toes. So for her to be 10 toes in anything other than
It's real
sand
support.
on a beach or an ocean, that speaks absolute volumes.
Yeah, it really does. Maybe I should have
You,
said baby toes. They're
you
acceptable.
hate feet. It's
I
the
hate them.
funniest. It's the funniest thing that I've ever known about you. Is like you will like you like dry heave at the
I'm
thought or sight of feet.
I'm disgust I was on an elevator last year
What?
in Tuscaloosa, and I was at the stadium before the Alabama game. I can't remember who they were playing. Maybe Texas, before Alabama, Texas. And I got on, they were giving me like a tour of the stadium, and I got on one of those freight elevators, and like 10 Alabama bros, like the most typical, stereotypical, like Bama frat boys, all get on the elevator with me.
Hose out.
They're all wearing thong sandals, and I almost had a panic attack. Not because I was in an enclosed space, but because there was just feet out everywhere. They were all around me. And when you're in an elevator so that you can avoid like eye contact, right? Like you tend to look down or whatever. I couldn't look down, I couldn't look up. I didn't know where to look. There was toes everywhere. It was the stuff of nightmares.
That was hell. That was your hell. You're
Touching
so
me with your feet is like fear factor, like the eating of the
eating
Madagascar
tarantulas and stuff.
cockroaches and stuff. That's cool, whatever. I could find a way to choke that down. But my form of torture would be holding me down and then just someone putting their feet on me. It would be tough to
Do you
survive.
make Omar sleep in socks?
No, but if he touches me with his feet, I jump.
Are you serious?
I will wake up. If I feel his toe on me, I will jump.
Elle, that
I
is your
hate it.
husband.
I know.
That is the man you have created children with.
Yeah. And
and
I
he can't
created
put
children with him, not his feet.
and he can't put his little piggy.
No.
He can't tickle you with his It's so good.
It's so gross.
It's so bad it's good.
It's so great. Speaking of so bad, it's good. Can I give a quick shout out before we move on from the W?
Yes, please.
Can I give a shout out to the Atlanta Dream? Okay. Because it's been a dream
Sure.
start for an Atlanta team that was facing a bit of a nightmare. I mean, they lost 8 in a row and 11 of 12 before the All-Star break. And they resume, and Jordan Canada comes back because they weren't healthy either, and that didn't help.
Okay.
She only played 4 games before the break, but they've had a couple of big wins this week over
Yeah.
Seattle, over Connecticut. And so shout out to Atlanta, man, because they're trying to find their way and can sneak into the playoffs. A team that at one point looked like would be battling with the Mystics for the number 1
Yes.
overall pick, and now if they can go on a little bit of a run, they can make some noise and at the very least sneak into the postseason. And then the Tina Charles experiment wouldn't have been considered a wash. So shout out to the Dream. I got to give them a little love.
So they're 9-17. They are the 9th spot right now in the WNBA standings. So they would actually be leapfrogging the Chicago Sky if that were to be the case.
Yes. And
something to watch out for. Okay.
Exactly. And a quick reminder too, because when I did First Take last week, Mad Dog asked me, for those of you that don't know, we have a lot of new W fans and we love that. With the playoffs, 8 teams make it, right? So 8 out of the 12 teams make the postseason. The top 4 seeds host the best of 3. It's not like Eastern Conference versus Western Conference. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
The top 4 seeds will host the best of 3 in the quarterfinals. And then those highest seeds that are remaining then host a best of 5 series in the semis and then obviously in the finals. So that's how it works. So it's going to be a really good next, few weeks, and we'll be holding you down along the way, but love to see the W kind of forming together and the picture becoming a little bit clearer with the
Let's get it.
Let's go. All right. When we come back, we'll take a quick little break. We've got a spicy meter coming up because people are on fire right now. There's all kinds of animus and petty, and honestly, that is canon for a couple of folks like us. So we'll get into the spicy edition of In Case You Missed It after this. All right, it's time for In Case You Missed It, Gare Bear.
What it do? Did you just say this is the Elle Duncan Show featuring Gary Streisky?
You're literally trying to torture me. At this point, even just the word feet is making me cringe. Ugh. It's just bad. It's all
She
bad.
listens to no music that has features on it. All right. It's got to be just the band or the artist, solo act. All right. Nobody else on the track. All right. Just audibly listening to the word, not happening.
Gary, I'm trying to do this segment and I will not be defeated. Okay. I will not. You remain undefeated and always finding a way to get under my skin. There's a lot of people getting under each other's skin this week. So we decided so much so that for this In Case You Missed It spicy edition, we would give ratings. All right. Now, a level 1 rating would be like a Dan Orlovsky level of spice, like a bell pepper. Okay. A level 2 would be a full pepper. That would be like a jalapeno. All right.
Love that.
Right. Level 3, 2 full peppers. That's like a ghost pepper, boo. That's a ghost pepper. All right.
Love that. Now
and
we're talking.
Level 4, that is the most extreme level of cattiness and spiciness. That would qualify as like Gary's favorite pastime at parties, pepper spray. All right.
I'm still the only person on this podcast who's been pepper sprayed straight to the face and lived to tell about it. I was so scared, though. I was so scared. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die that night. But against all odds, the kid from the burbs made it.
Your boy made it. I got pepper sprayed and I'm still here to talk about it.
That was crazy. I was so scared that night.
So the first story is one that I feel like we've been addressing for a few weeks now, and I don't know. I'm starting to believe that Noah Lyles is a bit of a sadist, because why else would
Mhm.
you keep saying things so that people keep attacking you?
Mhm.
So essentially, Noah Lyles joins Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco, and Shannon Sharp asked him yet again to sort of respond to the idea that he went after NBA players for not, in fact, being world champions, only being national champions.
Mhm.
And Shannon's rebuttal, as he stood by that take, was essentially, have you ever heard of Nikola Jokic? Because when you talk about these dudes are just the best in the nation, no, because they're facing some of the best international players in the world as well, like two-time MVP Nikola Jokic. And this is what Noah Lyles had to say. The man who has decided to Jon Snow the entire NBA because he knows better than they do actually doesn't know.
Is Nikola Jokic one of the best players in the world?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who that is.
Okay,
Bruh. Like, these are those things where, like, you disqualify people immediately from having opinion if they literally can't even name who one of the most popular players in the entire NBA is. A two-time MVP, a champion. You don't even know who this guy is. I don't want to hear anything else from you.
See, I'm on the flip side of that, L. This guy is so adamant about his position that he doesn't even care to learn about these players, these dudes. And I gotta believe that he's not BSing us here. Like, he's been so locked into his Olympic training and just like doing his own thing, albeit Nikola Jokic has been a superstar for like 5 years in the
Yeah.
NBA. So it's kind of difficult to avoid his name. But I kind of like I kind of respect him doubling and tripling down on his position. Like, that's crazy not to
On his
know Nikola
ignorance, you mean?
Jokic.
Just tripling down on his ignorance? I mean, I'm gonna give this
Yeah.
because I think this story in general is annoying. I'm gonna give this like a jalapeno level of spiciness. This is kind of what Noah Lyles does. But again, if you're gonna have an opinion, if you're going to like I always have these like pre-qualifying questions when people undoubtedly approach me out in the wild and they challenge you, especially I'm sure you get it too, but especially women, they get lots of challenges,
Mm,
men trying to test your acumen and see if you actually know anything about sports. And a few of the things that I like to do when people start attacking me, in particular if it's football or whatever it is ask them a couple of pre-qualifying questions that
yeah.
tell me whether I'm even going to engage in this conversation with you. And if someone starts attacking me about my team and talking about how good their team is, the first thing I say is like, "Who's your offensive coordinator?
Oh, that's a
What
good
what
one.
kind of defense do you run?" And
Yeah,
I'll say it in a way that I'm like, "I'm sorry, remind me, what kind of defense do you guys run?" And if
that's
they
good.
don't even know those things about their own team, I'm not having a conversation with you because you are completely uninformed. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the same thing here with Nikola Jokic, right? Like fine, you don't know who Aaron Gordon is, like, all right, I'll give you Jamal Murray. Okay, Nikola Jokic, you're going
Mhm.
to attack an entire league and you don't know who the MVP was in 2 of the last 3 years. Like, that to me is one of those that right away I'm not engaging with you because you don't know what you're talking about.
And that's why I'm going to give this a cracked black pepper level of spice, because I think in order to elicit some sort of reaction, you have to have play from both sides. So Noah Lyles has to outwardly disrespect Nikola Jokic by claiming he's too ignorant to know who he is, and Nikola Jokic has to feel some type of way about it. But I can guarantee you, one player who will not feel some type of way about Noah Lyles not knowing who he is Nikola Jokic, because my man is too busy at the horse track.
Correct.
So this is cracked black pepper, if that.
Correct.
If
Correct.
that
Jokic is somewhere going, the best athletes on the track is the horses.
is the horse, these horses are faster than Noah Lyles, and that's all you need to know. And
All
then
you
Noah
need to
Lyles
know
will be like, bullshit, I'll race every single one of these horses right now.
right
And I
now.
respect that.
All right. So we're giving that a low meter on the spicy meter. How about
Very
this? This
low.
was all over SportsCenter yesterday on my show on Monday. Tua Tagovailoa joins the Miami Dolphins quarterback, joins the Dan Lebitard show down in Miami, and talks about the difference in his maturation and progression since Mike McDaniels took over as head coach, as opposed to the guy that drafted him in Brian Flores. And this quote is exactly what he said. You ready? If you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong, that you shouldn't be here, that you haven't earned this, and then someone comes and tells you you are the best fit for this, how would that make you feel? And I found this to be pretty spicy. I'm actually going to give this a ghost pepper, only because typically, especially the quarterback position, they always try to high road it and they're like, I'm not going to besmirch the guy
Yes.
before me. I'm just going to focus on, like the coach that I'm with now. I love this relationship. This relationship is great and whatnot. For him to go back a couple of years and go after Brian Flores. Now, here's my one issue is that if Brian Flores was saying those kinds of things like that sucks, that's not exactly the morale booster that you want from your head coach. But when we do these sort of comparisons of numbers, when he was under the tutelage of Brian Flores and now under the tutelage of Mike McDaniels, we have to absolve Brian Flores a little bit. He's a defensive guy. He's a
Correct.
defensive guy. And how you talk to defensive guys and corners and DB, like how you talk to them is a little different. I've never played
Yes.
football, but I'm assuming, Gary, you have, is a little different than how you talk to your quarterback or some of the offensive players. I'm not saying one side is soft or not. Mike McDaniels is essentially the OC there. He's the offensive mastermind. He's really helped him grow. But under Brian Flores, Tua Tagovailoa's offensive coordinators were Chan Gailey his first year, who is like the king of failing forwards. That guy has never kept a job and actually never been demoted either. It's wild, okay? Look into the history of Chan Gailey. The man keeps getting fired and getting like better jobs every time. It's unreal. And then he had for a couple of years for his second year, he had the offensive coordinators, which never works. If you've got two offensive coordinators, just like if you have two quarterbacks, then you don't have one.
You have zero offensive coordinators.
Right. And so like this isn't all on Brian Flores in that way, but where do you rate this in terms of just the attack on Brian Flores a couple of years removed from him being his head coach?
See, I don't think this is any sort of attack. And you and I both know, having done interviews like this, is Dan Le Batard, Tua Tagovailoa said something spicy, literally, about Brian Flores. And then before the camera started rolling, Le Batard was like, I need you to tell me this story, but let's like tee it up in a way that doesn't make you look bad, but let's sort of use some sort of analogy to really get that point across. I'm giving this a level 2 spice because, to what you said, Brian Flores, like, who's got the last laugh? It's Tua right now. He got paid. He led the league in passing. The Dolphins, in my estimation, are an actual contender in the AFC. Yes, cold weather games, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into that later. But like, he's getting the last laugh. And Brian Flores wasn't going into this situation in Miami. He got a young Tua. He got a rookie Tua as an offensive mastermind. Like, he came from the Bill Belichick school of defense, and he was a defensive guy. So it's one thing if like some offensive mastermind is like, hey, you're simply not it. Because then you're like, oh, okay, well, this guy knows ball. This guy knows offense. But like, that's like somebody telling you how to do your job, and they've never spoken in front of a camera, and they've never, shown an ounce of personality.
Oh,
and
so all of social media then? So
exactly.
so everyone on social?
Yes, exactly. And you don't let that stuff get to you whatsoever, which poses this question that I want to ask you. Would you rather have critical acclaim or like popular acclaim? Like, right? Would you rather have, an office or two love you, but outside of the building, like nobody rocks with you or your style? Or would you rather have the masses love you, to which they do, and maybe some of the offices don't necessarily love your style or approach?
I would actually
right?
rather have critical acclaim. I'm not going to lie. I would rather have a great reputation in-house.
Oh,
It's the
really?
truth. Yeah. In a perfect world, you can have both. And
Correct.
I've been lucky in that in some ways people like me and in some ways they don't like me at all. But the barometer for me on whether I'm doing my job and doing it well is if coworkers want to have me on their stuff, if coworkers speak well of me, if PAs and APs like me and enjoy working with me, if the offices want me to go and represent the company, like that to me means a lot more than public acclaim, popular acclaim, if you will. I don't care about the popular vote. Okay.
Okay.
Don't care about it at all.
I'm going popular acclaim.
Yeah.
Just like Russell Crowe in Gladiator. You win the crowd, you win your freedom. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Hell, there's been people in offices, current, past, present, who are like, I do not rock with this Gary Streisky fella. And I'm like, damn, that hurts. And then they leave, or whatever the case may be, similar to Brian Flores with his Tua thing. And I'm like, interesting.
It is. I mean, it is. It's actually like a really interesting question. It's actually like a really thoughtful question too, because you're right. I mean, in some ways, if The Office is like you, if you've got the critical acclaim, if you will, I think about like TV shows, right? Like
Yes.
Arrested Development was one of those shows that was critically acclaimed.
Yes.
And people who wrote about television and reviewed television and stuff, like they loved the show and it was very smart and it was fantastic. I still watch Arrested Development on Netflix. But because it wasn't popular, it got canceled, right? Like because people didn't watch it, it didn't matter how many awards it
Mhm.
won or and so it is interesting because the offices are the ones that ultimately decide whether you keep your job or not. It is important
Correct.
that they are happy with you and that they find you to be an integral part of the company, a key cog, if you will. But a lot of ways that they measure that is by whether you're popular or not. And
Boom.
so that can be really tough, right? Like
It's
that is a
tricky.
leverage point. Everybody can hate you as a person, but if the people love you in mass, then you're going to have some staying ability. But I think for me personally, morally, based on who I am as a person, I sleep better at night when the people that I know and work with every day and respect, when they like me, that to me means a lot more than everyone on social media thinking that, I've done a great job. Like that's more important to me. I can tell you undoubtedly, no one on social media thinks that this next guy did a good job. This story
Fact.
is so interesting to me.
This is weird.
In case you missed it, an ex-NFL player, in fact, a former first-round pick,
Correct.
Goster Cherilus, was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct, okay? After drunkenly hitting a man and then urinating on another one during a flight from Boston to Dublin just a couple of days on Monday. This is my favorite part of the report. According to the police report, Gary, he was drunk when he boarded the plane, or at least appeared that way, argued with the flight crew about his seat, an hour into the flight, peed on an elderly man, then hit another passenger and took that passenger's seat before he passed out in it. Now,
So,
Gosder, after being arrested, has said he took a sleeping pill and it made him act crazy.
so
Thoughts?
Elle, point out where in this story there's an issue. My man just wanted to get some shut eye before he went to Dublin. All right, no, but for real, tell me what that drug is because I have an international flight coming up in October, and famously, you know me, I do not like flying, and I was actually thinking about taking something this time around. So I'm open to taking anything, but whatever this guy took.
Well, I don't think that this guy sounds like maybe he took GHB, which is not a sleeping pill.
What the hell is that? Is that like
Exactly.
a
That's like Rehypnol. That's the drug that people slip into your drink. That's called a Mickey, so that you
oh
can
damn
literally
like oh
black out. And it sounds as though this guy on brand was like, if you can't get piss drunk on a flight from Boston to Dublin, when can you? It feels like it's on brand for those two cities. You're
straight
going
up?
from Boston to Dublin. He's
I
like,
thought this was America.
I'm just representing for where I'm going. I'm keeping the brand tight. This is bad. I'm going to say this is a spice level of like, I'm going to give this a ghost pepper too, because it's pretty tough to get away with one of these things, like just
Correct.
showing up drunk, but to show up drunk and then pee on an elderly man and then punch another man before you promptly take a seat. Then when they had to return to Logan because they couldn't even make it to Dublin, he was acting like such an they return to Logan and the police come on and they're like, you got to get off. He refuses and he fought them. And so then they get him off. Like this doesn't listen. I have had to take sleeping pills before. I've had to take Ambien and all of those other things in my previous life. And you will do a little bit of like sleepwalking. I remember famously like getting out of my bed and going and sitting on my parents' bed and having a full-blown conversation, something I do not remember. But what I didn't do was attack them and piss on them. So I'm not
Yeah.
really sure that this is like a sleeping thing so much as this is
Mhm.
if you compound a sleeping pill with like a ton of Guinnesses, this is
Yes.
what your result is going to be. So don't do
And
that, Gary, and I think you'll be fine.
and here's the thing. I'm going spice level. I'm going spice level cracked black pepper again. And you're like, whoa, are you kidding me? Did you not hear and listen to anything that Elle Duncan just said about what this man did? For you and I, for any mere mortal, this would have stopped right after we like caused a ruckus, raised our voices. Because you know why? We're normal sized people. Gosher Chairless, 6'7", 325. Who's
Man.
stopping him? Who's
Yeah.
telling him to shut up? Who's
Yeah.
telling him to stop? Who's telling him to put his thing back in his thing and not pee on people? Who's telling him that? 6'7", 325. He's stuck in a freaking fuselage with you. It would take every single passenger combined to stop this dude.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if
Anyway,
he's on that ambient strength as well. You know what? What I'm hoping for Gosder is that he can get his life together once he gets out of jail or gets off the no-fly zone. And maybe in one of the greatest comeback stories of all time, he can join the USA flag football team for the 2028 LA Olympics, because flag football is being added. And in our last, in case you missed it, Daryl Doucette is pissed. He's already
Superman.
mad. He's anticipatorily mad. I don't even know if
As
that's
he
a
should be.
word. This man is angry. He's already coming after NFL players because he's marking his territory. He was interviewed by The Guardian, and when he was talking about NFL guys potentially trying to get spots on the team, he went in. He said, "We just don't think they're going to be able to walk on the field and make the Olympic team because of the name, right?" Talking about guys like Jalen Hurts. They still have to go out there and compete. Yeah, Gary, we've been out here slaving away at flag football, taking all the hits. Actually, and it's not fair that these NFL players think they can just step in right now and take over. And this to me is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this to me is like pepper spray level of petty and spicy. Because, bruh, here's what I appreciated about the 3-on-3 team that was curiously led by Jimmer Fredette,
Jimmer Fredette, man.
who apparently is one of the best 3-on-3 basketball players in the world. There wasn't a single second where he looked at the camera and said, "I think it's unfair these NBA players want to just walk in here and take a spot on the team. That ain't fair. What about those of us that have been doing this?" He would never, because he's not insane. Why on God's earth would you poke that NFL bear? First of all, assuming that they would want to play on the flag football team. I feel like there's some contract stuff there that would tell them that they could not. And secondly, to basically say these guys haven't earned the right to represent America in an intramural sport when they play the gladiator version is kind of insane to me.
I think I think my man's got a point though.
What?
I think my man's got a point. I mean, listen. So just like in the 3-on-3, like there are a couple of different nuanced rules with flag football in that, like, they don't use offensive lines and really you only have 8 downs to score. You have to get the ball across the 50 in 4 plays, and then you have to get the ball in the end zone in 4 plays. So schematically, strategically, there are a couple of things that obviously NFL players can adapt to quickly. But all I'm saying is this guy is basically just tossing out the questions and allowing the NFL players to humbly answer him. And trust me, they're going to loudly answer him. It's like, listen, when cricket is in the Olympics in 2028, it's going to India or it's going to Pakistan. All right, that's just a fact. I'm sorry, Team USA, y'all ain't going to win. We are going to win in football one way or another. Like, Daryl Doucette and our flag football team is probably better than any other flag football team any other country can assemble. So why not have a mixture of both, Elle? Couple NFL dudes, couple flag dudes.
Whatever. Fine. Okay. The 3-on-3 thing where there's different rules. Let me ask you this, though. If they suddenly got rid of team basketball, and they only had 3-on-3 at the Olympics, you really think that the country would just roll with Jimmer Fredette? You really don't think that Steph, LeBron, and KD are sliding in there? You think anybody is going, "I don't know, it's some different rules. Maybe they don't know how to play on the half court"? Are you joking? Stop. Full stop. It's just that no one cares enough about 3-on-3 to care who's on the team, period. I didn't know Jimmer Fredette was on that team. I didn't know he was ranked number 1 in the world. I didn't know they had world rankings. I'm going to be honest with you. This is insane to believe that if any NFL player wanted to actually play flag football, that he would be incapable of doing it. Full freaking stop. Yes, he would if they wanted to.
It is now a Pro Bowl activity. So maybe we're going to see the competitiveness ratchet up in the next 4 years during the Pro Bowl, and we're going to see who really wants it. We're going to see who wants to earn it. Okay.
Gary, you just came up with a brilliant idea accidentally, which is
as I always do.
That's how you come up with brilliant ideas, accidentally. Why not have the Olympic trials at the Pro Bowl during the flag football game? You think you're so good, Daryl Doucette? Put your money where your mouth is. Show up to the Pro Bowl, you and your team, you and the team you think should represent USA, and see if you can beat the Pro Bowlers at it. And if you can, you all get your spot.
That's actually a great idea. Can we clip this? Send this to Goodell. Clip this and send this to Roger. Now, obviously, they don't have to put those stakes at the forefront for another 3 years, but let it be known the Elle Duncan Show had it first.
Yeah, there you go. And whoever doesn't win is essentially an All-American reject.
Oh my God.
Which means that you would be Kirk Cousins' absolute favorite.
That is a freaking segue.
You see that?
Wow, that's a segue. Elle, let's go.
I'm proud of that one. I'm actually
That
really
was
proud of
damn
that one.
good.
We closed the show with the story of yesterday that I loved, which was Kirk Cousins. It was his birthday, which means he gets the aux cord at Falcons practice. And the Falcons released his birthday practice playlist. And I'm not going to lie to you, Gary. When my producer just said it out loud, like, uh-oh, Kirk Cousins released a playlist for his birthday, I, in my mind, was prepared to cringe. I was prepared to be like, oh my God, please don't do the like thing where we put fake chains on you and you pretend that all of a sudden you like the Yin Yang twins because you're in Atlanta. Please don't all of a sudden have this playlist be loaded with 2 chains. And that is disingenuous. And then the playlist came out. And I'm going to tell you exactly what my producer, Zach Mariner, noted white man, love Zach. He looked at this playlist and he said, as a white man, I can say that it takes a particular brand of white man to like all of these kinds of songs. And I think he's accurate. And I also think this feels very much like Kirk Cousins. And I'm all in on the list. Among some of the songs, Jimmy Eat World, The Middle. It just takes some time. We have to be careful here. I understand.
Correct.
The All-American Rejects. What does he have on here? Green Day. Holiday, not my favorite, but that's fine. Mr. Brightside, I have said this.
Yes, Mr. Brightside.
Mr. Brightside is the #1 song that makes the whites go crazy. It is the white version of Frankie Beverly and Maze Before I Let Go. If you play Before I Let Go at any Black function, people who were previously in wheelchairs would find a way to stand up and get to the dance floor so that they could dance into the electric slide to it. That is exactly what Mr. Brightside is for white people.
They go full grandpa from Willy Wonka. They're like, oh, now all of a sudden my legs work.
Yeah,
now
correct.
All of a sudden I'm not bedridden anymore.
it is just one of those things. I don't know what it is about that song. It speaks to the genes. It is a song that everyone loves. He's got Good Charlotte on here. He's got Blink-182. All the Small Things is a total bop.
These all check the list. The one that stands out to me, because these are all very much like early 2000s alternative, but then he's got early 2000s pop punk. Dear Maria, I got your picture, I'm coming with you. That song is a slapper. The only thing, Elle, and I'm not kidding, this list slaps. I had this exact playlist burnt on a CD, playing it in my 1999 Mustang, driving to junior year in high school in 2003. What we have to remember, Elle, is we think Kirk Cousins has been 40 for the last 10 years. He's 36. We're both older than him.
Yeah.
He turned 36 yesterday. The only thing missing from this playlist, and I'm not kidding, is Creed.
Can you take me?
Is a Creed song.
Yeah, that or POD. Oh,
POD would check out because that's a Christian rock band. So, and POD had a moment in about 2002 to 2004, and that's an impressionable year for Kirk Cousins. And I see this list, and it gives me the ultimate amount of FOMO, Elle, because Creed is actually playing a concert tonight in New Hampshire, about 5 minutes down the road from my house. And unfortunately, I am not going to it, but it was like the one concert that was circled on my calendar that I was like, I am not missing this concert. And 9 months later, I'm missing the concert and I'm not happy about it.
Well, that's fine. I'm sure that you can catch them next time they come to your local American Legion. But
first of all, Creed is making a comeback, right? Creed is super hot right now.
That's so ridiculous. What's old is new again. I love it. I mean, listen, I'm not anti-Creed. They had a couple of bops, but that's the point. You're going to like drive to New Hampshire to listen to 2 songs. They had 2 songs.
They had 2 songs.
They had 2 songs. They had 2 with
No.
Arms Wide Open and Can You Take Me Higher.
My Sacrifice, One Last Breath. Are you kidding me, Elle?
I don't know these songs. These are not popular songs. These songs I know. Like, I know all of these songs from Good Charlotte and Foo Fighters, and I'm with him on most of these songs. But I also have to note that you're playing this at practice, and I guarantee you his teammates wanted to punch him in the face. Like, you're out there, you're competing, you're trying to find that strength. I listen to hardcore rap when I work out. Like, I need young Dolph to help carry me. I need to feel angry. I need to throw weights around. You're trying to find that last bit of energy. You're reaching deep within inside you, and all of a sudden you hear, somebody told me that you were a girlfriend who looked like a boyfriend that I had in February of last year. You want to punch someone in the face, and that person was Kirk Cousins. So I love this playlist, but I love this playlist as like a hang at Kirk Cousins' house. I'm not so sure this is the playlist when you're trying to rip someone's head off.
And I respectfully disagree, Elle, and that is why this works. And I'm glad that you were very demure about that breakdown. Okay. You weren't overboard. You weren't underboard about it. You were very right. You were classy. It was cutesy. It was fine. It was very demure. I appreciate that.
I'll tell you my dirty little secret.
Oh, hey.
Which is
on Friday.
I am not demure at all.
Okay.
That does it for us. By the way, again, a reminder, we are now podcasting on Tuesdays and Fridays. So we will talk to you guys on Friday. We'll be back in studio. I hope it's still there. I hope they haven't moved our furniture. It's been a summer where we've both been all over the place. So we'll be live in the flesh. I will get to look Gary straight in his eyes when he says some of the dumb that he says. And I can't wait for that, Gare Bear. I'll see you on Friday. In the meantime, remember to rate, subscribe, review, tell everybody about the podcast. Going to have a great show for you as we get ready for college football, which kicks off in Dublin, Ireland this weekend. So it'll be a little bit of a college football show for you guys as we get you set for the start. Football's back, baby.
Let's get it.
We'll do it in a way only we can. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Peace.